Okay, let's give this a couple of minutes here. Give us a second here to get ourselves organized. We'll get started here in a minute. Cafe. Okay. Now, our Constitution, we have a separation of powers in the Constitution. Now, principles of our Constitution, let's keep, popular sovereignty, people rule, limited government, idea of nobody's above the law. Now, this one is really kind of twisted and has been kicked around and turned into a pretzel in the past few years. But technically speaking, everybody should face the courts and the law if they break it. Separation of powers, the different branches of government. The president is the executive, the House and Senate are the legislative, the courts are are their branch, the judiciary. Checks and balances, each branch is to hold the other accountable. They're not supposed to be constantly working and collaborating together. They're supposed to be separate. Powers that are shared with the state. Keep in mind, we have a federal system. There is state courts and federal courts. They share power. They share jurisdiction over each other. Okay, republicanism, we elect representatives. Government is to protect individual liberties and not violate those individual liberties. Okay, powers, the idea of the principles of the separation of powers, the structure of the American government system, the legislative, that type of thing. Okay, how is government divided? Well, you have Article 1, Article 2, Article 3. Article 1 is the Congress. Article 2 deals with the president. Article 3 is the court system. Article 1, all legislative powers are hereby granted to be vested in the Congress of the United States, which shall consist of both the House and the Senate. When we put the Constitution together, the House and Senate, House is popular sovereignty, Senate is by states representation. Each state has 2 senators. The House has 4 House members, or has members based on its population. For example, Nevada has 4 House members. California has got 52. They also have 2 senators. Nevada has 2 senators, so they have 6 total representatives. California has 52. Okay, now if you look at the functions of the Congress and what they're able to do, is Congress will have the power to lay and collect taxes, regulate commerce, establish rules for citizenship, coin money, establish post office and post roads, promote the progress of science and arts, declare war, raise and support armies and navies, and make all laws necessary and proper to the execution of power. Now, what that means is that if there's some area that the founding fathers, weren't sure of, but this was the future kind of thing, looking down the road in 2 years, and sort of think of it this way: that super duper gaming laptop you bought. What's that thing? How is that going to compare to other gaming laptops, say in 5 years? Is it still going to be the top of the line? No. Okay. Article 1, sections 2 and 3 talk about the Senate and the Congress. Hang on one moment here. Okay, so Article 1 and sections 2 and 3 lays out the basic rules and representations and how House members are selected, how old can they be, and that you have to be in the House, you have to be at least 25 years old, you have to be a citizen for 7 years, Length of term, you have to be, every 2 years you're reelected. Senate, you must be 30 years of age, 9 years as a citizen, and length of term is 6 years. Now, the Senate is based on thirds. So this round, there of our elections here in Georgia, our 2 senators are not up, but I believe Ossoff is up in 2026. He'll be facing reelection in 2026. People talk about how there should be term limits on these guys, but I say, look, there's term limits already on them. Every 2 years, we could clean out the whole House of Representatives. You could fire the entire House of Representatives in this election in the every 2 years. You could fire them all. It'd take you 6 years to clean out the Senate, but you could clean that whole thing out in 6 years. Fire them all. Okay. The House is based on population. Senate is state representation. Okay. Okay, next slide. Total number of people in the House is 435. They capped it in 1929. Everything's passed by simple majority. Now, things in the Senate are simple majority, 3/5 majority, 60%. On some things it's 60%, some things it's on 66%. It just depends on the particular bill or things like that. But the Senate is more of a rubber stamp on things that come out of the House. The Senate has their own little thing, which is advise and consent on presidential nominees. They approve judges, ambassadors, things like that. They approve treaties. They are the people who oversee impeachment trials, which has been kind of way overdone. The House, their main thing is the budget. That's their big job. The Senate are basically policy generalists. The House are policy specialists. Okay. How a bill becomes a law, very simplified. Bills are introduced to either the House or Senate. Bill is then debated in committees, and then the House or the Senate will send the bill out. Okay, so simplify this. The budget, for example, it goes to the House, and each section of the budget quickly, and I'll go into this in more detail when we do the Congress, goes to the particular committee. Okay, like the Army's budget goes to the Army committee, the tax budget goes to the tax committees. They're heard in committees. Then once that's the majority of the work where it's done, then once it's passed out of committee, it's then sent on to the other to the Senate. The Senate on the budget mainly is kind of like a court of appeal. You didn't get what you wanted in the House, so you're going to try your luck in the Senate. And then the Senate may modify the bill. Then it goes to a conference committee where they both sit down and argue about the bill, what should stay, what should go. Then once they finally get it out of conference committee, they will pass it back to both houses, and it's just straight up yes or no. And then after that, it goes to the president. We'll go into that in more detail. Power of the president. We will go in the next episode. We'll go into a lot more detail, but the executive power of the president, and basically, bottom line, when you boil it all down to gravy, they're the boss. Okay, duties, responsibilities, qualification, education, experience. You must be a born U.S. citizen. That's number one. We will go into detail more on in the next episode. Must be born a U.S. citizen, must be 35 years old, must reside in the U.S. There are the qualifications. There are no, you have to have, there's nothing in the Constitution says you have to have a college degree. You just have to be a citizen. Could you be a felon? Yes. God, I can't think of his name. He was a socialist candidate in the 1920s for president, and he ran from his jail cell. I think it was Al. I don't want to. Not Al Lewis. He was the actor. He played Grandpa on the. Um, was it Sinclair Lewis who did it? Lewis was his last name. He was a big socialist at the time of Williams Jennings Bryant and the progressive movement of the late 19th and early 20th century. Education experience. One of the things about a president is usually you want to look at a resume. Okay. And what I say about a president is what, it's kind of like um, you want somebody who knows what they're doing, who's been around a bit, was a successful businessman, was a successful governor. You want somebody with a resume so you can see how they do. You really don't want somebody coming in who has had no experience in anything. Like, here's why Michelle Obama, I think, would be a tough one. Yeah, the name. Oh, yeah, she's got name recognition. There's going to be at least third of the country that will vote for her because of her name. Vote for her name. But what does Michelle Obama have on her resume? What did she really do? Not much. Hillary Clinton, she has stuff on her resume. She was, Secretary of State. Well, was she successful? Um, somebody who ran as a governor, somebody who ran for president as a governor, DeSantis. What's on his resume? What did he do as governor? Was he successful? Did his education policies improve? Did he cut down on crime? You want to see somebody with something on their resume that's relevant to the job. Just, a name like that yo-yo they elected in California, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was a total disaster as governor. I'm the governor, he really didn't, people voted for him because of the name, oh, I'm the Terminator, I'm the governor, that's why he was voted into office. A lot of people say that's why Ronald Reagan got voted into office. You want a president that has got some kind of resume and some kind of experience. Should they have been in the military? Well, is it important? Yes and no. One of the things that made George H.W. Bush, George Bush, George W. Bush's father, was that he had been in the military and he was in World War II, but he sat back and let his generals run the first Iraq War. One of the things that George W. Bush did, he kind of stuck his nose in it. Had he been, and there was this bit whether he was a president or, was he AWOL? They did a big thing about him that he was AWOL, and Kerry, did this thing saying he was a big war hero and should have got the Congressional Medal of Honor, and so military experience and all those experiences, yeah, they're good, but Lyndon Johnson, one of his orders to the Joint Chiefs of Staff is, you ain't going to bomb a single outhouse up there unless I sign off on it. So he, and his doing of the Vietnam War, questionable, questionable, questionable. But we will stop there and I will end this for you, and I will see you on the next episode.